Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a pair of dusty Roman sandals, hoisting a leather satchel over one shoulder, and stepping out onto the hard-packed road just before dawn. The sky is still a dark purple haze, the kind that makes you question every life choice. You're a tabularius now, a Roman courier, and you're staring down a 20-mile stretch of uneven stones, questionable smells, and highly judgmental geese. You don't get a horse. That's for the elite. You've got feet. Two calloused, already regretting this feat. The scroll you're delivering is tightly rolled, sealed with wax, and probably more important than your entire life. It's headed to a senator 3 towns over, and if it arrives late or soggy, well, let's just say there are Roman laws about that, and none of them involve a friendly slap on the wrist. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Are you on the night shift, battling insomnia, or just looking to time travel without leaving your blanket? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You pull your wool tunic tighter against the early chill, adjust your satchel, and take that first fateful step. The road stretches ahead like a promise and a threat. Pebbles crunch underfoot. Somewhere, a donkey brays, and you already kind of miss your bed. But duty, well, duty doesn't care about sore arches. You've got miles to go. You're a tabularius now, a Roman courier. Not a glamorous job, but a vital one. The entire empire depends on messengers like you to keep things moving. Tax records, military orders, juicy gossip about senators' mistresses. It all flows through your calloused hands. You're part of a postal system so advanced that historians still marvel at its efficiency. Some say it rivaled anything that came after until the 19th century. Others argue it was just organized chaos with a wax seal. Your official job title means you're licensed to use the cursus publicus, the state-run network of routes and relay stations. But that privilege mostly applies to mounted couriers with imperial clearance. You, on the other hand, walk all day, every day, uphill, downhill, rain or shine, or more often, dust and sweat. The good news: you wear a badge of sorts, usually a wooden tablet or bronze token, identifying you as a government messenger. The bad news? That token doesn't stop cranky farmers from throwing cabbage when you trample their fields in a shortcut. Or dogs. Roman dogs are especially unimpressed by your authority. You sometimes carry a satchel called a loculus, made of leather or cloth, stuffed with scrolls. But not always just scrolls. Occasionally, it's urgent documents sealed in lead containers, or awkward parcels from one noble to another. A jar of garum, perhaps. Yes, fermented fish sauce. Ever walk 20 miles with that sloshing against your ribs? You have now. There are stories of tabulari who went rogue, selling secrets to enemies, losing messages to storms or gambling debts. Some say messengers carried decoys in case of bandit ambushes. Others believe that most just got really, really good at looking invisible. Whatever the truth, today, you're just hoping to make it to the first checkpoint without getting rained on, or insulted by a goat. You don't think much about your sandals until you've walked a few miles and your heels begin to sing opera. They're called calligi, standard Roman marching sandals with thick soles, hobnails underneath, and so many gaps that pebbles love to hop in uninvited. Great for ventilation, terrible for comfort. Your feet are either freezing or on fire. There is no in-between. You're also wearing a wool tunic that smells like old sheep and stale vinegar. No one has invented deodorant. And while Romans do love their scented oils, Tabulari like you can't afford more than a splash of something that smells vaguely like pine mixed with regret. Your satchel is heavy today. 3 scrolls, 2 sealed boxes, and something you're pretty sure is a wrapped bundle of figs. They squish. You hope that's intentional. Everything's jostling against your hip as you trudge, posture slowly collapsing into that signature Courier hunch. Some tabulari carried walking sticks, but you find they just get tangled in your tunic. You do, however, tuck a small dagger into your belt. Not that it'll help much against bandits, but it makes you feel 5% braver. You stop briefly under an olive tree and rub your foot, which now features a blister the size of Julius Caesar's ego. Historians still argue whether couriers were given replacement sandals at relay points or just had to fashion their own out of despair and cowhide. You've got half a loaf of coarse bread tucked in your satchel. Lunch is usually a few bites between strides. If you're lucky, there's a date or two, maybe an olive. The dream. A bit of cheese that doesn't smell like betrayal. Back on your feet, sandals flapping slightly, you start walking again. One dusty step closer to your next delivery and a warmish bowl of lentils. The road beneath your feet is no random dirt trail. It's a Roman highway, built with almost alarming precision. You've been walking along the Via Domitia, one of the oldest routes in Gaul, and it's so straight, it could make a ruler weep. Engineers laid these stones centuries ago, layer upon layer, crushed rock, gravel, cement, and finally paving stones that click under your sandals like a slow metronome. Every now and then, you trip over one that's shifted in the rain. You pretend you meant to do that. Some Roman roads were so well constructed that bits of them are still around today, which is either impressive or slightly rude, depending on how sore your knees are. You think about all the people who've walked this path before you, soldiers, senators, merchants, even elephants once, if Pliny can be trusted. Milestones line the way, tall stone pillars marking distances. They say who built the road, how far to roam, and sometimes throw in a cheeky boast about how great the emperor is. You pass one now. It reads something like, Lucius Calpurnius built this, long live the empire, 134 miles to Rome. You give it a nod. You're not walking to Rome today, thankfully. Just 20 more miles-ish. Historians still debate whether couriers were expected to memorize their routes or follow stone markers. You trust instinct, gut feeling, and when desperate, the direction birds are flying. Dust kicks up with every step, coating your ankles. You pass a cart stuck in the mud, its driver cursing creatively. You offer a wave, but keep moving. Your schedule is strict, your sandals are loosening, and somewhere out there is a senator who'll be very cross if his scroll arrives with olive oil stains. About 7 miles in, your stomach rumbles, and your legs start to grumble louder than the oxen you just passed. Thankfully, up ahead, you spot a mutatio, a Roman roadside station meant for couriers like you. It's not glamorous, more like a glorified barn with a bored attendant, a mule tied out front, and the lingering scent of garlic stew and wet straw. But it's a haven. Inside, there's a small table, a half-burnt oil lamp, and 2 other tabularii already flopped over their bread, like defeated gladiators. One lifts his head to nod. You nod back. In courier speak, that's a full conversation. You unwrap your squashed lunch, still figs, definitely fermented now, and take a bite. Not awful. While you eat, the other couriers share news. A collapsed bridge to the north, a general returning from Britannia with mysterious loot, and a rumor that a senator's pet peacock has learned to curse in Greek. None of it's useful, but it makes the figs go down easier. A small fire crackles nearby. Someone offers you a sip of posca, a sour wine diluted with water. It tastes like pickled regret, but it does the job. You sigh, stretch, and let your feet breathe for a moment. That's when you realize your right sandal has a fresh crack in the sole. Of course it does. Historians still argue whether these relay stations offered repairs or just a place to complain about the lack of them. One courier claims there's a blacksmith down the road who fixes sandals for a smile and a story. You make a mental note, though by the end of the day, you'll probably forget in a haze of dust and aching thighs. Your break's over. The scroll won't walk itself. You stand, groan, and head back out. You've barely made it 2 miles past the relay station when something goes wrong. Very wrong. The scroll you're carrying, marked with a wax seal depicting a lion eating a fig, was meant for Senator Vitellius in the seaside town of Nemausus. But a passing courier mutters something about seeing Vitellius headed to Rome days ago. You stop, blink, then slowly peel back the flap of your satchel and check the name again. Yep, Nemausus. Definitely not Rome. You mutter a quiet, respectful curse in Latin. You have options, none of them good. You could keep going and hope someone forwards it. You could turn back and explain the error to your superior, who will surely reward your honesty with a lecture longer than the Aeneid. Or you could do what Publius did last month and creatively assign blame. Historians still debate whether couriers actually invented the "goat ate my scroll" excuse, but it seems plausible. You pass a herd just then and eye them speculatively. One makes eye contact, suspiciously intelligent. Ultimately, you stop at a small villa and speak to the steward. You improvise, say Vitellius left town unexpectedly, and that you've been instructed to redirect the message to a senator en route. You name drop vaguely. You apologize profusely. You add something about how Senator Vitellius's pet peacock was causing a fuss in the forum again. That always distracts people. The steward nods, shrugs, and agrees to forward the message with the next traveller. You hand over the scroll, feeling both victorious and vaguely fraudulent. Will it arrive? Hopefully. Will it be opened and replaced with something insulting? Possibly. You walk on, posture straighter now, ready to pretend that none of this happened. Your new mantra? When in doubt, blame the goat. Storm clouds gather like they've got something personal against your afternoon. The wind picks up, tugging at your tunic and flinging dust into your eyes. Then the rain starts, slow at first, then in sheets, soaking your wool tunic until it clings like an overbearing relative. Wet sandals squeak. Your feet slip on the now glossy stones, and somewhere behind you, thunder grumbles like a disapproving uncle. Just when you think it can't get worse, it does. A low growl alerts you to a pair of dogs guarding a farmstead up ahead. They're medium-sized, scruffy, and full of purpose. You slow your pace, try not to look threatening, and whisper sweet things about how you're not here for their chickens. One of them barks anyway, loud and throaty. You pretend not to be terrified. You reach for your satchel as if you have something to offer, maybe a fig, a scroll, a detailed explanation of tax reform. The dogs remain unconvinced. A farmer finally whistles, and the dogs trot off, still giving you the stink eye. You nod in thanks and move along, pretending your heart isn't beating louder than your soggy footsteps. Historians still argue whether couriers were accompanied by guards in bandit-heavy regions, but if they were, nobody told you. A rustle from the trees makes you grip your tiny dagger, ready to defend the scrolls and your lunch with exaggerated bravado. It's just a squirrel. You pass a small shrine to Mercury, the messenger god, and offer a nod, maybe even a whispered prayer. You figure if anyone understands sore feet and unreliable weather, it's him. You're drenched, hungry again, and possibly being followed by that goat from earlier. But the road stretches on, indifferent to your suffering. And you keep walking, sandals squelching with every heroic step. The scroll in your satchel isn't just a grocery list or a friendly invitation. It's sealed, coded, and possibly something important enough to ruin a senator's week. Roman messages like this are often protected with wax seals stamped by official signets. Break that seal without permission and, well, let's just say you won't be invited to any more dinner parties, or allowed near scrolls, or toes. But let's say, hypothetically, that you were curious. Some couriers whispered about tricks, holding the wax over low heat to lift the seal without cracking it, or steaming it open using a kettle and sheer nerve. It's probably not true. Probably. You resist the urge, mostly because you know what's at stake. These messages might include military orders, legal summons, or coded phrases only 2 people on the planet understand. Historians still debate whether messengers like you were trained in basic cipher systems or deliberately kept ignorant for security. You lean toward the second theory. Your training mostly involved being handed a scroll and told, "Don't drop it." You do notice something odd today. One scroll is shorter than the others, wrapped tighter, sealed with dark red wax instead of the usual amber. It bears no name, just a crescent symbol pressed into the seal. You tilt your head, intrigued, but you don't touch it. You know better. The satchel grows heavier with each step, not physically, just the weight of curiosity. What secrets might you be carrying? A senator's affair? A request for troops? A debate over who gets the better villa in Sicily? You chuckle to yourself. If only you could read it. If only it weren't illegal. If only you didn't already have enough blisters to count as a war wound. So you press on, scrolls unopened, mysteries intact. As you trudge forward, your thoughts drift to the stories of couriers who covered much longer distances. Legendary figures who marched from the frigid forests of Germania to the sun-baked sands of Egypt. Imagine the stamina required to cross deserts where your sandals might melt, or mountains where the air thins until every breath feels like swallowing smoke. These tales circulate around the tabellari like campfire legends, exaggerated but issuing. You picture a fellow courier, laden with scrolls, trudging through the Nile Delta's sticky mud, or climbing the Alps under a thin winter sun. Meanwhile, you're just trying to keep your toes from turning into toast. Historians still argue whether such journeys were ever completed entirely on foot, or if riders and boats provided assistance. Some say the empire's vastness required a mix of methods, while others believe true dedication meant walking every step. You personally lean toward the hybrid theory, because, honestly, who wants to walk 500 miles in sandals? Your feet protest louder as you pass a caravan of merchants on camels. They give you a sideways glance, probably thinking, "Why are you walking when you could be riding?" You shrug, because in this empire, even the slowest courier has a job to do. You pick up the pace, hoping to outrun the nagging ache in your calves and the increasingly persistent feeling that maybe, just maybe, your sandals are conspiring against you. As you near a bustling town, you glimpse the swift riders of the cursus publicus, the emperor's elite express mail service. Mounted on sleek horses, they speed past you with the breeze at their backs and the distinct smell of expensive leather. You squint, muttering something about show-offs and rich kids. These couriers have privileges you only dream of. Fresh horses waiting at every relay station, official documents marked urgentissimus, and imperial favor. Their job is to deliver messages with speed that borders on absurd. Your own pace, in contrast, is more steady tortoise than lightning bolt. Historians still debate whether the cursus publicus riders and foot couriers like you ever crossed paths professionally, or were part of completely separate networks. Some argue the foot messengers handled local deliveries, while mounted riders covered vast distances. Others believe they sometimes competed, one trying to outpace the other on overlapping routes. You watch one rider gallop away, clutching a scroll wrapped in crimson silk. The rider shoots you a quick nod, a gesture you return with a mix of envy and relief that you don't have to ride a horse all day. You straighten your satchel and mutter to yourself that while their horses might be faster, they don't have your unmatched expertise in dodging mud puddles and angry farm animals. The perks of being a tabularius are, well, modest at best. You don't get a salary that would impress anyone outside your neighborhood tavern. Instead, your pay consists of occasional bronze coins, enough for a cup of watered-down wine and maybe a piece of stale bread. And even those coins arrive irregularly, which keeps you humble. Your benefits include sore feet, sunburned shoulders, and the endless companionship of dust and sweat. Some couriers are lucky enough to score cold soup left over from a villa feast, which you've learned to appreciate after hours of dry marching. If you're really lucky, a local farmer might toss you a fresh fig or a jar of honey. Those moments are golden. Historians still argue whether tabularii ever had formal contracts, or if they were more like freelance messengers relying on goodwill and imperial necessity. You suspect it's the latter because contracts would probably involve fewer sandblasted feet. Today, a farmer's wife waved you into her kitchen for a quick snack, and you accepted, grateful for a brief reprieve. You sat down on a rickety stool, legs trembling slightly, and enjoyed a bowl of lentil stew that tasted like victory wrapped in cumin and smoky bacon. You wonder if all this trudging might someday earn you a bronze medal or a laurel wreath, or at least a new pair of sandals. After what feels like an eternity, you spot a milestone marker rising like a tired sentinel beside the road. It's a simple stone pillar etched with distance markings, and the emperor's name, usually some long, intimidating string of titles that you barely understand but respect enough to nod at. You stop, lean heavily against it, and pretend to check your progress. 20 miles, they say. Exactly what you expected, and slightly more than you'd hoped. You breathe deep, trying not to think about the next 20 that might lie ahead tomorrow. You rub your aching calves and glance at your sandals, which have now taken on the unique texture of well-worn parchment. You try not to grimace when a pebble slips in and digs into your soul. You swear that every stone on this road has been placed precisely to punish tabulari. Historians still debate whether milestones were primarily for travelers' guidance or imperial propaganda. Either way, they mark the miles you conquer daily, each one a tiny victory in your endless march. You sit for a moment, taking in the dusty landscape, a few olive trees, the distant murmur of a stream, and a handful of buzzards circling like unpaid mail inspectors. Your thoughts drift to home. A warm fire, a bath, somewhere soft to rest your battle-weary feet. But for now, there's still a scroll to deliver and another 20 miles to walk. Your next delivery brings you to a sprawling villa perched atop a gentle hill, its whitewashed walls glowing softly in the afternoon sun. The air here smells of fresh herbs, baked bread, and something floral, maybe lavender, or the laughter of a charming housemaid. You approach the gate and announce yourself. The steward greets you with a weary smile, but it's the housemaid who catches your eye. She's standing by the fountain, brushing stray curls from her face, and something about the way she glances up at you makes your tired feet feel lighter for a moment. You hand over the scroll, and she thanks you with a soft voice, asking if you've eaten today. You say you have, technically, but your stomach growls louder than your words. She offers you a slice of fresh bread and a small cup of honeyed wine. It's an unexpected kindness in a long day of trudging. Historians still debate whether couriers often received hospitality from wealthy patrons or if they were kept at arm's length, seen as mere functionaries. You, however, choose to believe in the kindness of strangers, especially when they offer snacks. You take a sip, savor the sweetness, and wonder what stories the villa's walls could tell. For a brief moment, the weight of the road lifts, and the world feels a little less dusty and a little more hopeful. Then it's time to move on, but you walk away with a small smile, something to carry along with your scrolls. As dusk falls, you finally see the familiar outline of the post station where your journey began. The sky is streaked with pinks and purples, and the air has cooled enough that you're no longer worried your socks might spontaneously combust. You shuffle inside, feet dragging, but spirits slightly lifted by the promise of rest. The station is quiet, except for a few other couriers unpacking their satchels and swapping tired stories, mostly about blisters, suspicious goats, and that one time a senator's peacock escaped again. You set your satchel down with a thud, stretching out muscles that feel like overcooked pasta. You glance at your sandals, which have endured the full 20 miles, now dust-coated and slightly battered, but still holding together, just. Historians still argue about how much downtime couriers had between routes. Some say barely any, while others suggest there was time for sleep, food, and the occasional groan. You're hoping it's the latter. You consider the day's journey, the rain, the barking dogs, the wrong scroll, and the brief kindness at the villa gate. All in all, a decent day for a tabularius. Maybe tomorrow you'll even get a new pair of sandals. Maybe. For now, though, your feet just want to be free. The sandals come off with a sigh, the final act of the day's weary ritual. You sit on a rough bench, peeling off the leather straps and setting your feet free to gasp at the fresh air. Your toes are grimy, swollen, and sporting a collection of blisters that look like a bizarre, ancient mosaic. You reach for a small basin of water and scrub your feet, the cool liquid washing away the dust, sweat, and faint scent of olives and goat. You lean back, closing your eyes as the relief spreads slowly, and your mind drifts, reluctant to leave the road behind. Historians still debate whether foot care was a formal part of a courier's routine or just desperate improvisation. You're certain your method is somewhere in between, a little dignity, a lot of grit. Your thoughts flicker to tomorrow's journey, to the miles waiting patiently to be conquered, the scrolls to be delivered, the goats to be blamed. But for now, you rest, letting the day's ache soften into a gentle hum. You picture the scrolls rolling safely into the hands of their recipients, the empire humming quietly along because of your steady steps. And somewhere in the quiet, you almost feel like a hero. Now, as the night deepens, you settle further into your bed, feet still tingling from the day's travels. The sandals lie by the door, silent witnesses to your tireless march. The stories of the road weave gently through your mind like a soft lullaby. The echo of footsteps on ancient stones, the murmur of distant rivers, the occasional bleat of a goat hiding in the bushes. Imagine the empire stretching endlessly beyond your window, roads leading to places you've only glimpsed in dreams. Your breath slows syncing with the timeless rhythm of those who came before you, soldiers, senators, messengers, each walking their path with purpose and sometimes a touch of weariness. Let your thoughts drift like the dust in the Roman sun, softening, fading, until all that remains is the peaceful hum of a world kept moving by footsteps, just like yours. Rest easy, knowing the empire sleeps soundly tonight because you walked its roads today. Good night and sweet dreams.